We're live.
All right, Senate Education Committee on March 12th. We're doing a few things this afternoon. First, we have a group of youth members of Outright Vermont Youth Leadership Day. I got asked, I can't remember how long ago, whether to come in and give us some testimony. I said yes, so we'll definitely work out this day. And then just for the committee to know what's going on, we couldn't get legislative council until 3:30, and then 3:45. There was a couple of bills that we're trying to potentially get out. So we're going to end up having a little bit of a break after this for half an hour or something like that. So there's all those things to do. So don't need to follow the order on the agenda. Whoever wants to go first can go. If not, it is Theo.
It's actually going to be switched to me.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
So what you do is come have a seat. Introduce yourself. Tell us what school you town you live in and what school you go to.
Yes. Okay. Well, my name is Rafael Body. Thank you for having us today at Outright. I'm just going to do a quick introduction about what Outright is and why we are here today. To start off, I am 17 years old. I am a junior in high school. I'm actually homeschooled, but I do live in Orwell.
Okay.
And I am a second-year youth organizer. So I don't go to Fairhaven, sadly. But I'm a second-year youth organizer intern with Outright Vermont. And what Outright is it is an organization, a statewide organization that provides resources and opportunities for queer and trans youth to build hope, equity, and power in the state. So we provide a lot of resources for queer and trans youth, specifically relating to gender affirming care, but also programs and connection. And within Vermont, it's often difficult for queer and trans youth, especially those in rural areas, to find connection and community. And so Outright Vermont really strives to provide that to queer and trans youth in Vermont. And so it's really changes the lives of many of the young people who come into contact with Outright and get to work with it. I know that I am a part of the youth organizer training program. I'm an intern, but I know so many young people in the state of Vermont whose just lives have been so impacted by the many programs that we offer. So some of those look like the Tween and Teen group that meets in Burlington. We also have Gender Creative Kids, which is for young people who are, questioning their identity and looking for community in that sense. And we also have the Camp Outright, which is a very, it's like an incredible camp opportunity for queer and trans youth to have community that they might not find in other camp opportunities. And we actually have a space on the Orwell Benson border, so that's a little bit in Addison, a little bit in Rutland, but we have that space now. It's former Boy Scouts camp, and we also have our facilities in Burlington that are also used for other events. I know that Education Justice Coalition of Vermont hosts a annual social justice camp there, so it's a really collaborative for a lot of organizations within the state and community are also accessing resources from Outright Vermont. But this specifically Leadership Day works to bring queer and trans youth and young people from across the state who are working in policy as well as social justice work to come to the State House and talk about the policies that they are working on and really care about. So today is it's an incredible day. This is my second time working with Youth Leadership Day. But it brings so many young people to the State House to speak with, legislators such as yourselves, and also have press conferences and lunches to talk about policy that folks are working on. And
We talked about sanctuaries.
we did. We talked about sanctuary schools. There was also a group talking about accessing gender affirming healthcare. There was a group talking about youth voice in schools and how young people could be better represented within their schools. And there was another group talking about hazing, harassment, and bullying policies within schools. So Outright is really focusing on empowering queer and trans youth as well as other young people across the state and empowering them to, find their voice and, really take action within their communities. And so that is what is so important about Advocacy Day. I know that it's like providing so many resources to so many youth who would not have access to these opportunities, and it can really change a lot of lives. And hopefully that the work that we're doing is going to, be spread out all across Vermont. I know that we have so many within the training program. We gain so many skills for leadership and advocacy, and that is really what we see culminating here today as Leadership Day. This is something that we as youth organizers organize and work towards throughout the year. And so we are all really happy to be here, and thank you for having us. I hope that answers some questions though.
Do you operate just by through funding, or is it all student led, or how do you? What's the revenue?
I can't really answer the funding specifically, but I know that we do get a good amount of funding, and we are very well supported as an organization. I don't know if Eliza or Teo, if you want to speak to.
Is it student run?
It is not. It's run by some amazing, incredible employees, but it's not. So it's not a student-run organization, but it does focus on empowering youth, and so we do have almost, it works with youth directly. It's an organization for youth, and we have a lot of youth organizers who are putting together a lot of programming.
Okay, that's helpful.
Can I just say we're like a
Sure.
nonprofit.
First, you have to say who you are.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I thought we could go through and everybody would introduce themselves, what school they go to, grade, and where they are from, even if you're not testifying.
Do you want to just jump ahead to fill something in? Go ahead. Name.
Annabella Ferrier.
Okay.
And I was just gonna say we're a nonprofit organization. Post that. I can't make that clear.
I won't take
We're not like
it.
Yeah.
a bunch of students.
And many of us have been part of huge fundraising efforts on Church Street, like the fire truck poll, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's great.
Yes.
So you wanted to have.
So most of the money is raised by
Individual.
fundraising? And
Yeah,
yet-
a lot of it is
yet-
fundraising,
and
yes.
yet you must get some donations as well.
Lots of
Donations, fundraising, yeah. Mhm, mhm.
All right. So you want to set, that's what you wanted, we can do that. Have everybody introduce themselves.
Yes. Emma, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm at Wiggins. I'm Franklin County, and I'm a college freshman, so I'm grade like 13.
Where were you in college?
I'm going to Community College of Vermont and transfer to UVM.
And are you doing that while you're in school, or you're out of school and going to CCD?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, thanks.
You really did do it again.
Annabella Ferrier, and I go to Thetford, and I live in Corinth, Vermont.
Asher Walker. I am in 11th grade. I go to Enosburg Falls next year. I will be a early college student at Randolph.
I'm Mela Landis Marinello. I'm a senior at U52 High School and I live in Middlesex. I'm Chloe Mole. I live in Brandon and I go to Otter Valley Union High School and I am in 12th grade. I'm Alice Langbauer. I live in Colchester. I go to Colchester High School and I'm in 9th grade.
I'm Katie. I'm a Burlington resident. Just independently contracting for Outright today. Take photos.
I'm Eliza Davison. I'm the school transformation manager at Outright Vermont. And I'm always proud of these wonderful young people.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teo Susi. I work for Outright, and I'm the GSA network coordinator.
So your next person.
Yes. Thank you.
And just some history, even if, for you all may or may not know this, but I mean, Outright was in the building when we did marriage equality in 2009. I still have pictures of me visiting with my friends then. So, it's a very long-standing institution. Bill Lippert has been involved. Many legislators have
Yeah, and it was founded in partial
by Bill Lippert.
Yes, and it was founded in 1989. Okay,
1989.
there we go.
Ancient history.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah. Okay.
Let's go next.
I can go first. Or do you?
Yeah, no, you-
Okay. Hi, so as I said, I'm Mela. I'm a senior at U32 High School. I'm also here as a member of the Vermont State Youth Council. I am on the education committee for that. So thank you for taking the time to listen to our testimony today. I'm really excited to be here with all these amazing youth advocating for youth voice in education. I'm here to express my support for H640, an act that would require voting student members on school district boards. This bill is currently still in the House Education Committee, but I would like to share why it's important to me for when it comes to the Senate. So I'm a representative of the Vermont Students for School Board Representation Advocacy Group, which was started this summer at the Governor's Institute for Global Issues and Youth Action, where I took an educational policy class and I had the opportunity to learn about what's happening right now with Vermont's education system and the transformation work that is being done with Act 73 specifically. So at the Governor's Institute, I visited the State House and we had a mock education committee session, which was co-facilitated by Representative Harpel and Representative Quimby. And this was an amazing opportunity where I got to advocate with my peers for the importance of including youth voice in current discussions around education. So in our mock committee, we ended up actually drafting the first version of the bill, H640. And then our group of young people followed up with Representative Harpel, and she brought the bill proposal to Legislative Council. So that's kind of the history of how the bill started. And I'm excited to be here today expressing my support for H640. So since I was in elementary school, I've engaged in democracy in a variety of ways, educating myself about issues I care about, attending climate rallies, and participating in activism clubs at my school. I'm 17 still, I'm not yet old enough to vote, and yet I've been taking action to stand up for the cause I believe in for years. And as a young person, it's often been frustrating for me because it's hard to advocate for these issues I'm passionate about when I cannot yet vote. Specifically regarding education, lawmakers are currently making many important decisions that will decide the future of our state's young people. I strongly believe in the importance of uplifting our voices and experiences as youth, which should inform your decisions about the future of our education system. H640 would recognize this and take concrete action to incorporate youth voice into our systems of decision-making regarding education by ensuring voting student representatives on school boards. This bill would require voting student representatives on district school boards from each grade of high school, as well as non-voting members in grades 7 and 8. This requirement was designed intentionally to introduce students to the school board process in middle school, where they can contribute and engage and then earn their vote in high school. The ability to vote as a high school or student representative on the district school board is the most important part of the bill to me because it does not tokenize student voice, but truly values what we have to say as young people. And I just want to add that our requirements of having 4 members is something that they've been talking a lot about in the House committee, and we've been talking with Representative Harpel about because depending on the size of the board, that could cause issues. And so we've talked as a group of young people who started the bill, and we're completely open to amending that to make it more likely to pass with like a junior and senior representative. The most important part to us is just ensuring, even if it's just one voting student representative on the school boards. So all my life, I've been told by many adults that they want to hear young people's voices. I've spoken at public comment during my school board meetings and met with legislators. And every time I'm thanked for sharing my opinion as a young person, but it often can feel like my opinion doesn't hold much weight. Since, as I said, as a young person, I do not have opportunities like adults to vote yet and directly engage in democracy. H640 would not only involve youth in the democratic process of voting, but would make a clear commitment to the importance of youth voice in these decisions. I'm grateful to all the legislators, school board members, administrators, and community members who put in the work every day to develop a plan for the future of Vermont's education system. But the ones who will be affected most directly by these decisions are the students. It's crucial that we're given a say in these decisions. And by giving us an opportunity to vote, you will be giving us a real voice. H640 will provide a systemic pathway to youth engagement and participation in our school system and democracy, which is critical in order to ensure that Vermont youth are represented as we continue to tackle education reform as a state. Thank you.
Have they taken it up?
We are working, advocating. I'm going to reach out to Representative Conlon today to ask them to bring it to the floor. I was in there at the end of January testifying with a group of some other students who helped write the bill. So it's in committee right now.
Senator Hooker.
So, how do you decide, which, if you want to get senior and juniors, how are you gonna pick you're gonna have a election at the school to pick who's gonna be representing?
Yeah, so I'm not completely clear on that right now because that was something that went to Legislative Council because of like the rules for the elections and stuff, which I don't know all of the information about, but I know there was some legal complications with that. Something that we talked about in our group when we were writing the bill was how to ensure that it's not a popularity contest. Because as students, it feels like sometimes that's what happens with student council and other groups that are like kind of used as token student voice sometimes in high schools. And
But isn't
so,
that democracy if you have four
Yeah.
people race and it
Yeah.
is, unfortunately, sometimes it is a popularity contest in politics, which is.
yeah, I think what happened was legislative council was saying that as minors, we maybe weren't allowed to vote yet or something. I'm not completely sure on the details of that, but I think the idea, it's in the bill, whether it would be an appointed position or elected by students. And I am in support of the students having involvement in that. I think ideally it would be a combination of like the students have to apply and put in some effort to express their interest, and then it would be an election by the students or something like that.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's still, that part's still in the process, but yeah,
You gotta interview for the spot and
yeah, yeah.
so pick 4 or 5 that they get to vote.
Mhm.
So.
Well, you said, I don't know very gracefully, and that's a lot of what we do in our job. So you don't have to know the answer to this question either. I've worked with a lot of the student school board members in Chittenden County. In my area, we have a lot of students on the school board. My understanding was they could vote on almost everything except things that were going to contribute to the budget, decisions that were going to go before the voters, because then there became a question of constitutionality
Mhm.
of who's of the age of majority to vote. I don't know if that's come up yet, but there's probably a lot of votes students could take, but it does run into some questions of balance and
Yeah.
age of majority.
Yeah, I think that did come up when I was testifying in the House committee, about specifically with budget, especially since that's, in my experience, a very sensitive topic, at least at my school.
You are
But I think generally in Vermont right now, for me, the importance, like, I'm not super set as the details, and this is speaking for myself, not representing our whole group, but like, even if we can't get our goal of 4 representatives on each school board, or like we can't get them voting on the budget, I think the important part is like working into the system of our government that students have a voice in this, and like cementing youth voice into the system in this really concrete way is what's important to me. And I think I'm not a student rep at my school, so I don't know how it works in our district, but I think it's really great that they can do that in Chittenden, and what I would hope this bill would do is ensure that students across the state have that.
Absolutely. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I guess I'll introduce myself again.
Mhm.
I am Annabelle Ferrier from Current Vermont, and I am Deptford Academy. So unlike Mela, it's an excellent testimony. I don't have a specific bill or anything like that, but what I want to do is I want to focus on the issue of housing and how it intersects with education. Vermont has the 4th highest rate of homelessness in the nation. Of the more than 4,500 unhoused people in Vermont, at least 1,000 are under 18. And it's easy to view that number as unrelated to education, but we must acknowledge the academic disadvantage that being unhoused creates, which is especially important considering that the path out of that kind of extreme poverty requires education. On a personal note, I have someone I know personally who lost their housing a few years ago. Their family was evicted with no cause. And for the year after that, they could not attend school just because of how their housing situation developed in that year. It was not possible for them to attend school regularly. And they, by no fault of their own, not because of any actual failing, they ended up being held back a year and have to graduate a year late now, only because of the effectively bad luck that their family encountered. And even after that last semester, they were in the hotel program, which was better. They were able to attend school consistently, but a tent, they were in a tent for a while and then a hotel when it was more stable than it had been when they were initially homeless. But in a tent with their mother and their sister, or in a single hotel room with their mother and their sister, they couldn't focus on school. That is not an environment where you can effectively complete homework and focus on schoolwork. So their grades were not, they slipped. And again, it was not their fault. It was simply that they were in a situation where they could not perform as well in school as they otherwise would. Now they have, my family's actually taken them in and they're doing much better now, which is good, but I don't have a specific bill or anything like that, but I urge you to remember this intersection, to remember that housing and education are not unrelated issues, and that support in education for homeless youth can be all of the difference in the trajectory of that child's entire life. And I think that we must remember the role that housing plays in education and the role that education plays in housing, because if we don't, we will be leaving behind Vermont's most vulnerable youth. Thank you.
Some of us sit on the housing committee and it's music to our ears. And people like housing and education and poverty. So thank you.
Answers, need answers.
Oh, we have some. That's so great.
But thank you. That's of course good. That's testimony. On the one hand, I think we're going to say you all know it, but it's also good to hear it, especially from you, and have it reinforced. So thank you.
Thank you.
I will. Normally we don't allow clapping, but today I was thinking today it's okay. So in fact it is okay today. So who's next?
Chair, if you will hear one more.
No, we've got time.
Oh, yeah.
We have a.
We were thinking we were over
We
time.
have a gap, so it's okay.
Excellent. If that's you.
I found it.
I think like we said. So expressive.
My name is Alice Langbauer. I go to Colchester High School and I'm originally from Arizona. I want to talk to you about hazing, harassment, and bullying policies. Specifically, currently, Bill H 130 is still at the House, but I'm hoping that soon it will get to you, and I want to get that into your minds now. Moving to Vermont, I assumed that it would be a very safe feeling place to live. I'm a queer, disabled AFAB person, so very easily targeted. And I assumed that I would be a lot safer in Vermont than other places I've lived. But coming to Vermont, I experienced extreme bullying and harassment for all sorts of things. And a big issue that I had was the school really didn't take it seriously. You may know that the law states that if it's classified as harassment, they have to do a full investigation, but if it's bullying, they do not. And so my school, what they would do is I would report something and they would say, oh, sorry, that's just bullying. We're not going to do anything about it. We don't have to. Because they didn't want to do the paperwork. They didn't want to have to call home. They didn't want to do any of that stuff. So they would say it like, I would be called a slur, and they would say, oh, that's just bullying, even though that is very clearly harassment under anyone's terms. So the bill H-130 is about expanding the duties of the AOE and specifically the HHB Council. They really are doing nothing right now. They met like for the first time since October a week ago, and they're supposed to meet monthly. So they're already not doing their duties and they barely have any. I, as a person who has been targeted and is still targeted, need support from the government to come and push my school and say, you need to do something, and to push them to listen to me, push them to have effective consequences and restorative justice. But that is currently not implemented, and my school gets away with a lot of things that it should not. And I really want to bring attention to this as an issue, because I think a lot of people assume that because there's a law, they have to do the investigation on harassment. They do, when in fact they have found this loophole that they can just say it's not harassment. And so I just want to bring attention to this, and let you have this in your minds for when Bill H-130 or any other bills related to hazing, harassment, bullying get to you, so that you know my story, know that it is very, very important that there is intervention. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we have had a couple of hazing, harassment, bullying bills come through the committee, and we, always think of give it due diligence and provide the right type of testimony and analysis and what have you to the topic. Maybe you could help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
The distinction between harassment and bullying.
Yeah.
Help us try to find like where you think the distinction would be, so that the next time we have, or if we need to modify current law, we can kind of live with this example.
Yeah.
So,
bullying is a repeated behavior meant to harm someone in some way, whether it is mental or physical. It can be online, in person, it doesn't matter. But the important part is that it's repeated. Harassment does not have to be repeated, and it is about a protected group. So you can find lists of protected groups such as LGBT people, AFAB people, disabled people, BIPOC people. Those are all people that are protected. And so if they are targeted because of that specific minority that they are a part of, that is harassment. It can be one comment, be one word. A slur is harassment. It's really just about they being targeted for a group they're a part of. Bullying is not about a group that they are part of. It is just meant to cause harm. So if, for example, sometimes this is really stupid. I'm called Four Eyes sometimes because I wear glasses, and it's really dumb.
We feel you.
I'm like,
We feel you.
why do you think that's harming me? It's not. You're stupid. But that's bullying because they're just trying to make me feel bad about myself. They're trying to harm me. But I've been called the F slur before. That is harassment. They are, yes, trying to harm me, but they are doing it because I'm part of a group that's a minority.
yes, go ahead.
Just a quick clarification and clarifying question, because of my own ignorance. You said AFAB, I hadn't heard of that before.
Assigned female member.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So, yes.
So harassment
Mhm.
is saying if you get a slur word. Now, have you ever said, I take offense to that? And if you say it again, now I consider that harassment and will file a harassment charge against you?
Yeah, I think it's harassment the first time.
Oh,
but
it is,
yeah.
but.
But I definitely, I don't fear my peers at this point because they've been doing this for so long, and I know that they can't harm me at this point. And so at this point in time, if someone says something like that, even if it's not to me, I will turn around and I'll say, if you say that again, I'm going to file a harassment report. And I also, I encourage other people to do this as well. I will say, do you understand why that was offensive? And if they say they don't, I will explain it to them.
Very good.
I think that's a big issue is people don't know what the F slur is. They don't know what these things they're saying. They don't know why it's offensive. They've just heard other people say it. And so, if you say, hey, that's harassment, let me tell you why, let me explain it to you. I think a lot of people are very receptive to that, and that's not necessarily expected, because you think they're doing it just to harm you, when they're really just ignorant. And sometimes they do know what they're saying. A lot of the time they do know what they're saying. But yeah, I think I do that very often. And yeah, I've definitely had conversations like that with people.
It's a really remarkably mature.
You said nice.
Yeah,
So you've come from Arizona.
yeah,
I grew up in Los Angeles. We've had conversations in the state about how big is too big, how small is too small for a school.
yeah.
You know, Colchester's on our list of schools that is on the smaller side for a whole district.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation about, do students have enough opportunities to find community or to find safety or a trusted adult or a friend group if their school is pretty small?
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts on like how the size of your school or district has played into, being able to compare experiences across different settings?
Yeah, I think the community in my school is actually really good. I think that it makes it difficult with hazing, harassment, and bullying because there's less administration. And so if one administrator says something, it's kind of like that's the end of it. But I think you have less ability to say, oh, I don't want to be friends with this person because there's not as many people. And so you talk to a lot more people than you would if you're in a big school because you don't really get to pick and choose. And I think that really is part of what makes Colchester so successful as a community. I think the main divide in Colchester as a community is there's queer people on one side and non-queer people on the other side. And I think that's the main split. And I have talked to so many queer people that I've been able to connect with all through Colchester. I've talked to people of different ages. I have a little sibling, so I've talked to their friends too. And there's that connection. And then there's these people who are straight and I guess are scared of gay people. I don't know, but they just don't want to talk to us. And it's very difficult to merge those two communities. But separately, they're actually very similar and are all very strong. But I think it's a very interesting point, and I
No, but we
Yeah.
will.
I do know someone from CVU who actually that's like a lot bigger of a school, and they actually really struggle with community. It's just so big, and I think an issue with specifically like bullying is the bigger the school, the more harm can come from bullying because
How big was Arizona? How big a school were you going to?
it was bigger than Colchester, but it wasn't too big. I went to a charter school in Arizona because the public school sucked. So it was a little bit bigger. But I think we had less issues because the racial diversity. We were literally 12 minutes away from the border to Mexico. So it was very much white people were the minority. And I think that helped a lot community-wise. Because these are all people who were not gonna target people for their minorities because they'd all been targeted already, and so they knew how it felt. But I definitely Colorado, I also lived in Colorado. I had a lot bigger of a school district, really big. And I'd say that was probably like the hardest community to be a part of. It was very much you just didn't get an opportunity to talk to other people. Like you were stuck in a class with these like 30 people and that was it. And I think it was very difficult because at this point I was in 5th grade in Colorado. And I think at that point, that was when everybody kind of started solidifying their beliefs about other people and started saying, oh, you look different from me. Oh, you believe different things than me. I'm just not going to talk to you. And so I think that was a really hard time, especially. But yeah, I think definitely having a bigger school really impacted it. And like the bigger classrooms too. If you're in a bigger classroom, it's hard to talk to everybody in your class. But I have like classes with like 15 people in them here in Colchester, and I get to talk to everybody, and I get to be in a group with different people. And teachers really encourage people to talk to each other and encourage people to become friends with people they didn't know before. And so I know a lot of people, and I get the opportunity to see a lot of people just because the classes are smaller, so I get to actually talk to them.
Have you had a chance to talk to the administration about what it feels like when you feel like you're not being supported? Have you talked to them about that?
Oh yeah, all the time. I have been at the middle school. I was going straight to the vice principals because the system for reporting that was terrible. But I've talked to the vice principals like weekly. I met with the principal like 5 times in my career at the middle school, and then here at the high school, I've at this point I'm going in like daily to report things and to try to make things better. My mom is sending emails. And at this point, whenever I go in to the teacher I'm supposed to report things to, she just sends me straight to the vice principal because she knows I'm serious and I'm not gonna just like sit there and let her say, oh, are you okay? Is it gonna be okay? I'm gonna say, no, you're actually have to do something. So yeah, I'm very involved.
So I learned something that I didn't know. I didn't know that if they consider bullying, that's okay.
Yep.
But if it's harassment, I'll ask the committee, maybe, because when we talk about hazing, harassment and bullying. If we just made a policy to tell AOE that any of those things have to be reported.
Yes.
They're not even investigating civil rights.
Huh?
Yeah.
They're not even investigating civil rights complaints at this point.
It's a really big.
It's
Yeah,
a problem.
well, it might be something as simple as
Yeah.
do a bill that says this is the policy. and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's not okay.
That would be so helpful. Yeah.
Senator Shea.
Just a response to Senator Williams, I think in our very first year in this committee, we took that issue up, and I can't remember the definition off the top of my head, but what I do know at the moment is there's actually more protections for adult employees
Yes,
for hazing and
changed that.
harassment.
in the labor committee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a sea change in workplace harassment law, so it doesn't have to be severe or pervasive.
Severe and pervasive, yeah. that was
Yeah,
the-
we
Severe or pervasive, yeah. So, but that was just something I remember from the first.
and in fact, sometimes when we do those things, they say you have to leave schools out of it. That's a totally different HR system and world, and they won't let us touch schools.
Yeah, it's not okay.
Yeah, that's been an issue too.
So, okay.
That cyberbullying, that's when they say,
Yeah.
oh, it's outside of school, so we can't do anything.
And it's very terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know you if it weren't for school.
So,
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're on, breaks of paper. That's the